I thought today, Tyler Betsy, Nate George, Cayenne, those guys stepped up and made big free throws when we needed it. But like I've said all year, and we've said it from the beginning, I've stressed defense, and not at the expense of our offense, where we put up some numbers today, but it was at the expense of our defense. I personally, is disappointed in our defensive effort. We got to get back to the fundamentals of keeping people in front of us. I know we lost the ball, lost sight of the man when they killed their dribble. So just things that we got to get back to. We just haven't been able to get our defense of intensity sustained since we've been back from, since the Tennessee game, to be honest with you. So we got to get that back. We got to continue to work on that, get that grit, that toughness that we had. And again, keep improving on offense. Again, these guys, I thought Tyler Betsy was huge off the bench, gave us a huge lift. Nathan George, big time, 22 points and 6 assists, 1 turnover, but 12 and 14 from the free throw line. I thought that was huge, and we needed them, and they all stepped up. Cayenne as well. They stepped up at the end to make those. So we got to continue to improve. We got to get our energy back on defense and our focus back on defense. I thought the first half we were on our way to doing that. In the second half, it just, we lost focus. We got our 14, and then we kind of lost focus. We got to continue to work on that.
What led to the defensive lapses in the second half? Like, what did you see?
I think again we stopped, paying attention off the ball. I thought when they drove it a couple of times and they stopped and reverse pivot, we kind of lost our man. Whether it's a cut or whether it was a kick out three, and then we didn't get the 50-50 balls. Those are the things that we didn't. They got 17 offensive rebounds. And a lot of those, we know how the game goes. If you don't get those rebounds, they normally end up in 3 points. And our objective was to guard them on the 3-point line. The first half we did. The second half, I think we gave up seven of them. So we just got to do a better job of paying attention and keeping people in front of us. They had too much drive and penetration. We didn't do a good job of keeping guys in front of us.
Coach, you said that you need to be more focused in the second half. How do you get your team focused coming out of the locker room?
I thought we were. Again, the way we ended the first half, even though they made the shot, we held them to 31 points. So we were on pace. And then, we came out in the second half, thought we got up to about 14, and then, we let them back in. We can't do that. I think, that's the biggest thing that we've struggled with, in a while. Even with the games that we've won, we've been up, we've kind of had that dip a little bit. So we got to continue to work on that. They know that. I'm challenging these guys every day with that, and we just got to, keep getting better with this.
Coach,
try to get better with this.
Coach, you talked about dips, and the last couple of games you lost the second half. Is there something about your message that you feel isn't getting through to them about needing to maintain the focus and needing to play at level 5?
I think the message is getting through. You can talk to them. They understand. We're very informative of the timestamps and the things that we're doing and how we've, we break everything down to them so that, at the end of the day, they have to start stepping up and taking accountability as well. Obviously I'm the head coach, but the players have some responsibility as well, and and that's what my job is, to keep challenging them on that and get them through that. And I think they understand that more and more now, because this is like 2 or 3 games that we've had this, and so we'll continue to show them the film, show them the timestamps, give them the information, and keep pushing and coaching them. Me and my staff, we got to be able to push through that, because it's taken away from some of the stuff that we're doing well. It really is. Like, we get up to 14, 16, or things like that, and we just, we kind of lose focus. And we gotta push through that.
Coach, you talked about Nate George. He shot only 16 free throws the first 10 games. I think he's at 19 the last 2. Like, how has his aggressiveness and ability to get to the line just help you guys overall?
We needed everything today. I thought, again, we put a lot of pressure on the rim. When you talk about our offense, we try to put pressure on the rim by penetrations, rim runs, and then kick it out. But he was big for us today. I thought he controlled the game, especially late. The ball was in his hand. He made the right plays. And he was strong with the ball, got to the foul line and knocked him down. And, we need Nate George to play that way. Confident.
You lost the points in the paint battle, 40 to 36. How do you, number one, how does that happen, and how do you fix it?
I thought I thought they were more active to the ball. You know, I thought their big men were more active. Our guys were, you know, we just couldn't scrape those out. You know, they moved, they got the loose balls, deflections. You know, I thought they did a good job of finishing around the paint, you know, but it's just not, you know, our big guys. It's really 5 guys. A lot of those rebounds were kind of outside that paint, and we got to rebound together, all 5 guys, and we talk about that. So continually just trying to reinforce that and working on that and making that a point of emphasis as we move forward in the season.
Coach, from the line, 93% in the first half, not the best showing in the second half from the line, but down the stretch, the guys are clutch the line. But how do you build that consistency from the line, from an excellent first half to, you know, a full game for that?
No, we just got to keep working on it. You know, we got to keep working on our free throws, and we've been doing that as of lately, and you're starting to see, you know, some payoff. You know, for the game, we shot 70%. Let me make sure that's right, 70.8. So we'll make sure that's right. And so we just got to keep staying at it and working at it. You know, and again, I got to give my guys credit. You know, when it counted, you know, they stepped up and made it. So I think that's something that you pull from as well. You know, you reinforce that, right? Because free throw shooting is about repetition and confidence. And you know, they all stepped up today and made them.
You came into the year and throughout the year, you talk level 5 and you talk about the 3 defensive stops in a row. How frustrating is it for you to have the team play defense the way they have the last 3 or 4 games?
Yeah, very frustrating. You know, very frustrating. But you know, you got to keep challenging them and pushing them. You know, they have to get better. You know, they have to get better. We have to get better as a coaching staff, and as players, they have to do their job as well. You know, so we're just going to keep, you know, rolling our sleeves up and going to work every day to get better.
Looks like we have a little more clarity on when Donnie's coming back. Red against Clemson. Just how did you come up with that plan with him to build up, and the timing will be good. He'll be back for races.
That wasn't me. That was the doctors and the medical people. They come up with that timeline. So, you know, I was informed of that as well.
What is he going to bring to the table that maybe you're not getting now when he comes back?
Well, I think you get another guy that can obviously space the floor, a guy that can, you know, step out, a guy that can rebound, you know, a versatile defender, a guy that can kind of score inside. And, you know, he's a pretty good free throw shooter, too. So, again, a guy that can capitalize and space the floor. And I think it's just going to open a lot of things up for the rest of the guys, you know, the Will Kyles and the Nate Georges and JJ. So, you know, he's a big part of what we do. So I think his spacing will be, you know, important for us. And he's a guy that, you know, that can, you know, defensively, that can, you know, gives us some versatility. We can change lineups, play different lineups with him. So, you know, we'll be excited to get him back when he comes back.
It was a tough 3-point shooting outing tonight. Is that kind of a concern for you, or how do you get the guys going?
Yeah, we got to make shots. That definitely is a concern. We got to make shots. I thought we got some good shots. I thought we got some good looks, and we didn't cash them in. So we have to make those. You know, so in order for us to try to, you know, continue to improve, we have to make open shots. And we got some today. We just didn't make them.
Coach, you talk about players have to take accountability. How does that manifest itself? Does it mean less playing time? Does it mean possibly not starting? What does that mean in terms of players taking accountability? How do you?
I mean, these guys, they know what they can do. They've all shown that they can, you know, do a better job. In particular tonight, you know, of this game right here, I thought our guys can do a better job of keeping people in front. So we'll sit down and we'll talk to them and we'll challenge them and continue to challenge them. And you know, if we don't see any progress, then you know we have to, you know, as a coaching staff, make decisions. You know, but you know, I think they will come around.
Adrian, when you look at bench scoring today, 32-18, and just overall what you've seen out of your bench so far this season.
You know, I thought Tyler Betsy and today he really he was a little sick the last couple of days. I thought he really came out with a pop and some energy. And then Cayenne, you know, he's been pretty consistent for us. So, you know, that's the one thing, you know, I believe this team does have depth, and we can have, you know, people come off the bench and score. But my biggest focus right now was getting us to get back to playing defense like we were, you know, earlier in the year. You know, I don't want to, again, I don't want to sacrifice, you know, our defense for our offense, you know, because I think this team is good enough to do both, you know, and so. You know, we really have to refocus on that and hammer that in as we finish up.
Brad, how do you kind of strike that balance between, you know, making sure that you're pressing it on defense and also, you know, able to put up, you know, lots of points on offense? Like, have you been able to, in practice, kind of strike that balance? Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, you know, again, we spend a lot of time in the film. We do a lot of challenging our players. and showing them and seeing where we can get better at in these areas. And then it has to translate in the game. And so far, you know, we came on the second half and we made a nice little run. We started making some separation, and then, you know, that's what we start talking about. Hey, this is the time that now we have to, you know, really dig in and focus on that. You know, naturally, players, they offensive people. They love to score. You know, the challenge for every coach is, to get that balance. So, you know, we just got to keep, working at it. And again, if they can't respond, then we'll have to make some adjustments from there.
Time for one more.
Coach, you just going back to the free throws, you guys shot season high 48 today. Do you feel like you're nearing where you want to be when it comes to the free throw line, or is there still a lot more work to do?
I'm never satisfied. You know, my players will tell you that. I'm never satisfied. So, you know, I think, I always think that my players can get better. As a coach, that's my job to get them better, and our staff. And again, we've made a huge jump from, probably the last 3 or 4 games from shooting that. But I still think we can continue to improve. You know, as a coach, it never satisfies. You're always trying to push to get them better. So I do think we can continue to improve on the free throw shooting. But I will acknowledge that, they've made that jump in the last couple of games. So, it's good to see that. Now we just got to, it's like, we improve here, then we go down here. We improve in this and we go down to that. So we gotta get that balance, and that'll be the challenge for us going forward. Thank you.